to this episode of Kyber Clips. I'm Mike Giuffrida, President of Kyber Security, joined once again by Bob Thomas, CIO, CISO of Kyber Security and for our clients. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about data backup and data security as that applies in different places. Data has become a pretty dispersed thing in today's world. It's maybe not as simple as it was back in the day where you just had to swap a tape every day.
Had that server sitting in the closet. That's all you had to worry about.
Yeah. We throw the term around a lot, but it might be a good starting place here to talk about a BCDR.
Yeah.
Right? What's a BCDR solution, BCDR plan?
Yeah. So business continuity and disaster recovery. The idea behind having that plan is, when something goes haywire, you're not running around with your hair on fire. You want to make sure you've got something in writing. How do you communicate with your clients? How do you communicate with your staff? How do you get the message out that, okay, we have an issue. This is what we're expecting the downtime to be. We have a plan to get back up and running, whether that means restore, getting new hardware and running off a temporary backup server, if you will, running from the cloud if you've got replicas there. What is the true plan to get you up and running, and what's the time frame? And not many people like to talk about this, but how much data are you going to lose? You're not backing up every second of every day. There will probably be some amount of data loss or data that needs to be recreated once a restore is done. That's something that absolutely should be figured out before you put the plan on paper, before you actually need to go back and restore and recover. You ought to think about, how can I back post information that's lost? Can I recreate the last hour? Can I recreate the last 4 to 8 hours?
Are we going into acronymville again here?
Not necessarily.
RTO, RPO, is that where you're going with this,
You can talk about recovery time objective and recovery point objective, but you need to think about how much time can I really survive without the systems I'm used to running, and how much data, how can I really recreate data? How do I know what data to recreate?
So in a BCDR plan, as you're putting this together, some sort of a risk matrix by system, by the amount of time, what priority they need to be backed up.
Priorities that
back
really,
up and operational.
Criticality for each system. How, what's the highest priority? What's got to be back up and running first? In our world, we always think about, the domain controller has got to be back up and running first. Nobody's going to be able to log in without that. Kind of critical. You'll never get to your database server unless you can actually log in. The domain controller.
Unless you're an e-commerce company, in which case those web servers better be out.
Yep, web servers. If you're web facing and you're trying to create and maintain traffic, I think that's important. And of course, the database behind it's really important. That's storing all the inventory information. So I think that plan ought to have your words matrix is a perfect description for that. Every single system, who's responsible? We could get into shared responsibility model and start talking about, as the user of the system, I have some responsibility for making sure that it is kept up to date. Maybe my IT provider doesn't do that part for me because my software provider is responsible for keeping it up to date because we have a contract with them to do that. But the operating system has to be kept up to date. Who's monitoring and managing the backups? Everybody assumes the backups are just happening, and I guess back in the old days you were just flipping tapes and you saw that the tape ejected in the morning. Oh, look at that, it must have run the backup. Who knows if anybody checked the logs, but nowadays you get automatic emails and they tell you exactly, oh yeah, it was successful, it wasn't, I took a screenshot and it guaranteed success.
Now,
I think those are important.
That obviously applies to on-premise devices, on-premise servers.
Yep.
Talk to me about Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, Azure.
Yeah.
How are we handling that stuff?
Yeah, so I think the misnomer that everybody believes is that, those are big providers with huge systems. They must be protecting my data. It's it's all backed up, which is completely inaccurate. And all of those providers, Microsoft, Google, and others have posted press releases that have said we don't protect your data. We're responsible for what they call IaaS, infrastructure as a service. We keep the infrastructure running, the system running, the application running. The data is your data. It's not our data. And that's how Microsoft and Google feel about it. And they actually say that you should replicate it to a third party. So if they have a failure, you have a huge deletion. Somebody leaves your company and they delete their entire history of email. How are you going to get it back? If you don't have it copied to another location, you're not going to get it back. That's really what they've said. Yeah, okay, if you delete and you catch it immediately, can you go back to the trash? Yes, if it's in the trash. Has it been removed from the trash and it can't be recovered? There's a lot of issues there around where is my data and can I get access to recovery. And if you call up Microsoft and say, I need you to restore X day for me, the answer will be a laugh and a click of the phone going down. They will not demand, you get lawyers involved, you're not getting your data back that way. So you have to have your own protections in place and basically copying them to another data center. Cloud to cloud is what we call it.
Also accurate for Azure, AWS.
So
I
I think
move your workloads up there.
So I think if you start to talk about Azure at Microsoft, their virtual server environment, and AWS with their EC2 stuff, which is their virtual server environment location where you construct your own servers, so to speak, you can use their tools to back up. They're limited as to what they can do, how often they back up. Once a day, they only save the stuff for 30 days. There are limitations that may not fit your compliance or your business need. But there are tools. We use one from Data where we actually, just like we would back up a server that's in your office or servers, it backs up in Microsoft to another location, and then it replicates that off to here in America to a Pennsylvania-based data center location. So, and you can recover from that. You can spin servers up, I hate to say on a whim, but if you even wanted to test it, you could spin them up instantly and test access. So I think you have to have a plan, is I think what's really important about how you protect the data. It's not just counting on somebody else handling it.
So step one, identify the data, where it is, where it lives, how it lives,
how important it is,
how important it is to the organization, how much you can live without.
How long can you live without that stuff?
Prioritize your systems and data along the way, and then put a comprehensive plan there that's going to meet your specific organizational goals for recovering that to keep you operational, to minimize the risk rate. We're talking about risk reduction.
It's risk reduction, and it's understanding whose risk it is, whose responsibility it is. We use a hosted phone system here in our office, and we have plenty of clients that do the same thing that we've connected them to. Well, it's not necessarily our responsibility to make sure that that engine keeps running, that they keep delivering phone calls and allowing us to make phone calls, but they're on every DR plan list that we've put together, including our own, to say whose responsibility is. It's Citricom's. Okay, how do they protect it? They've got multiple locations in data centers. They have a failure, they can immediately fail over. They test this, and it puts our mind at ease that they've got it under control and they've got a way to get people back up and running even in the event of a big failure.
Great. All right, well, riveting topic of backup disaster recovery plans. Hopefully this information was helpful. If you took one nugget out of this, I think it's figure out what you have, where you have it, and how important it is to your business as far as how to protect it and recover from it. There's resources to be able to help you out there. There's providers that can help with those kinds of things. But it's your specific plan. It's got to be about what's important to your organization and the risk you're willing to tolerate. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you, Bob, for joining us, and thanks for joining us on this episode of Kyber Clips.
Hey, thanks, folks, again for joining us today for a Kyber Clips episode. Hope you enjoyed the information. If you did, please don't hesitate in subscribing to our channel, smash the like button, and always comment below or reach out to us at sales@kybersecure.com.